Order! Order! You are an incorrigible delinquent at times. Behave yourself, man!
The Shadow Chancellor, John McDonnell, has called on all the main political parties to agree a new independent system to tackle sexual harassment at Westminster. Mr McDonnell said the recent claims of misconduct by MPs were distressing and undermined public confidence in the political system. Last night, the Conservative MP, Charlie Elphicke, was suspended by his party following what they called serious allegations which were referred to the police. Mr Elphicke said he'd done nothing wrong. Our political correspondent Ian Watson reports.
This is the week when politicians' private lives became very public. Past actions by some MPs have had serious consequences. There have been accusations, resignations, investigations, and it's clear the current crisis at Westminster will continue to fill the front pages. And now Conservative MP Charlie Elphicke has been suspended from his parliamentary party and reported to the police. He says he doesn't know what he's been accused of and denies any wrongdoing. The Conservatives have toughened their code of conduct for MPs and party members, and the Shadow Chancellor says Labour has learned from a past scandal. The party will now allow complaints of harassment to be made to an independent body, free from political control.
The lesson from the MP's expenses scandal is act quickly, get an independent system in place which people can then have confidence in. It's distressing for all of us. It's distressing to hear some of these concerns and some of the reports of what's gone on. So we've got to act with them. We've got to be decisive and ruthless.
But Jeremy Corbyn is still facing questions about why he hardly acted ruthlessly against this MP. Kelvin Hopkins was promoted to the Shadow Cabinet after being reprimanded for past behaviour. Mr Hopkins denies wrongdoing. The physical structures of Parliament are being made fit for the 21st century. And on Monday, Theresa May wants to do much the same thing with the wider culture here at Westminster. She's holding cross-party talks to try to get broad agreement on tackling harassment and inappropriate behaviour. But some MPs are worried that political careers could end on the basis of rumour and the settling of old scores.
There's a febrile atmosphere and there's a feeding frenzy that some have described, I think probably rightly, as a witch hunt. Yes, this may sell tomorrow's chip wrappings, but this is more serious than that. And I believe that my colleagues, members of Parliament, have a right to the same natural justice as anybody else, and they're not getting it.
Party leaders want to be seen to be taking tough action against harassment, but they know, perhaps even fear, that they're not entirely in control of events. Ian Watson, BBC News, Westminster.
And Ian is with me now. Ian, this is being compared to the MP's expenses scandal. How similar is it?
I think it is similar in a couple of ways, actually, Rita. First of all, we've seen day after day newspaper stories which must really lead to even further erosion of public confidence in politicians, very similar to the expenses scandal. I think secondly, though, and perhaps more significantly, like the expenses scandal, I think the culture of Westminster will change. I think there will be long-standing changes out of this process. So, for example, already Labour has a sexual harassment policy only 4 or 5 months old. They've changed that under pressure from some of their own MPs to make sure that people can make complaints now to an independent body. We know the Prime Minister herself wants more independence in the system. So those cross-party talks that I mentioned, I think when they get underway on Monday, that will be the focus, to try to get more independence, less party political control of the process. But I wouldn't overdo the comparisons for this reason, because in the MP's expenses scandal, you had clear evidence, a paper trail, a digital trail, if you like, of what MPs had done wrongly or what they'd done at all. What we have here sometimes are rumours and gossips, and as we heard there, some people do not want to be put on trial in the court of public opinion on the basis of unsubstantiated claims.
OK. Ian, thank you.
The swirl of allegations in Westminster shows no sign of abating. The Conservatives suspended one MP, Charlie Elphicke, overnight, and the matter was referred to the police. Tonight, this programme reports claims of a different nature. Alleged inappropriate behaviour by another Tory MP, Daniel Kawczynski, who's said to have pressured a young researcher to go out on a date with another man. Both deny any wrongdoing. It's a story which sheds new light on the abuse of power in the corridors of power. Also tonight, A European arrest warrant is issued by a Spanish prosecutor for the ousted Catalan president, who says he'll put his faith in Belgian justice. In the shadow of Grenfell Tower, we report about the campaign to keep open a local college. And the heroics of UK athletes are well known, but tonight we look at an exhibition celebrating Black and Asian British coaches.
We have an old cliche where we are more argumentative and we're not sort of a yes person, but the good ones are not supposed to be like that. Great coaches are not yes people.
There is no sign of an end to the parliamentary sexual abuse scandal. Tonight we have new allegations concerning the Tory MP Daniel Kawczynski, who's been a special advisor to David Cameron. He stands accused of trying to pressure a young researcher to go on a date with a wealthy friend. It's understood he admits he did put forward the idea, but denies any suggestion that anything inappropriate took place.
There's far too much noise in the chamber.
One of Parliament's most senior women, the Deputy Speaker Eleanor Lang, calling the Commons to order.
If she would like to make an intervention, stand up and make an intervention.
But as the Westminster harassment allegations spiral out of control, we can reveal she confronted a Conservative colleague, accusing him of harassing and propositioning a young researcher who worked for her.
I'm extremely appalled that the office can behave in this way.
It's alleged that in 2013, the Conservative MP for Shrewsbury, Daniel Kawczynski, pressured a young woman to go on a date with an associate from overseas who'd seen the young woman in Parliament. Channel 4 News has been told that the young woman was approached multiple times by an intermediary. Then Mr. Kawczynski went himself to ask her to go on a date with his contact, suggesting it might help with a deal. She was horrified. It's alleged the woman told the MP the man was older than her father. It's claimed Mr. Kawczynski replied that was true, but that the businessman was very rich. When she continued to rebuff him, he pressed her to have a coffee with the man instead. A source close to the young woman told us it was sleazy in the extreme. She said when Eleanor Lang found out, she was absolutely furious. We understand Ms Lang admonished Mr Kawczynski in the division lobby and that several MPs witnessed her angrily raising her voice. It's understood she mentioned it in passing to one of the whips, but didn't make a formal complaint, believing the matter dealt with. In a statement tonight, Ms Lang said, "I was very angry at this inappropriate behaviour and I strongly reprimanded my colleague in front of several witnesses. I feel very strongly that women of my generation have got to stand up for the younger generation of women because that's how we will get cultural change. My number one concern is to protect the identity of this young researcher. She deserves privacy just like any other victim."
Parliament is in crisis. Parliament is sick, and it is time to put Parliament into special measures. We have got to stop talking about grey areas, about who said what in terms of who should have reported when and whether men know where the line is. This is simply about an endemic, systematic abuse of power. We are seeing a real crisis of harassment cases, and this latest case, frankly, tips into exploitation. He should be suspended immediately.
We went to Mr Kawczynski's constituency to put the allegations to him. He declined to comment. However, it's understood he accepts that he did ask the young woman to have a coffee with his contact and that he did apologise to her and Ms Lang. But it's believed he strongly denies any business deal was involved and denies repeatedly sending an intermediary to approach her. Well, are the investigations into sexual harassment and alleged assaults by politicians a witch hunt, as some MPs are now claiming, or are they simply a way of finally giving justice to women? Allegations of more Westminster wrongdoing are continuing to surface, with Tory MP Charlie Elphicke suspended by his party after it said serious allegations emerged that have been referred to the police. He has categorically denied any wrongdoing. New allegations have also emerged about Labour MPs. Jane Death reports.
Charlie Elphicke was supposed to be speaking at a conference on Brexit in London today, but stayed away. For the moment, he's not a Conservative MP after the party referred what it called serious allegations against him to the police. He said he didn't know what he's supposed to have done, tweeting, "The party tipped off the press before telling me of my suspension. I'm not aware of what the alleged claims are and deny any wrongdoing." anger at how his party's treated him. From others, anger at the media and its hunt for stories of sexual harassment. This Tory MP, Sir Roger Gale, said politicians are being pursued without proof and called it a witch hunt. 3 Labour MPs have refuted claims they've groped or behaved inappropriately towards women. Ivan Lewis, MP for Bury South, has denied making non-consensual sexual advances or comments after a woman alleged he repeatedly touched her leg at a Labour event 7 years ago. A formal complaint's been made about Norwich South MP Clive Lewis, that he touched a woman's bottom at this year's Labour conference. He strongly denied the allegation. And Luton North's Kelvin Hopkins is suspended by Labour over claims he sexually harassed a female activist, claims he categorically denies. Labour, holding an event in Blackpool today, has been criticised for briefly promoting Mr Hopkins after allegations were raised about him within the party.
Kelvin Hopkins was promoted to the shadow cabinet after your chief whip was made aware of these allegations. How can that happen?
I can't comment on the individual cases because what we've said is they'll be investigated. That's part of the new process that we've introduced. There'll be objective investigation of the case. It's distressing to hear some of these concerns and some of the reports of what's gone on. So we've got to act on them. We've got to be decisive and ruthless.
Strong words. And the shadow Foreign Secretary says she's disappointed in her party.
Some of the things that I've heard in the last week have been so disgusting, and I am ashamed that this could happen in the Labour Party. As I say, it happens up and down the country, it happens in all walks of life, but we in the Labour Party hold ourselves to a higher standard.
A long-time Labour MP said the scandal will hurt politics and there's more pain to come.
The vast majority of members of Parliament have done absolutely nothing wrong, and you know, there is this feeling then that everybody's to blame, and it affects politics generally, and that's not good for the political process. So we need to show that we mean to get this sorted, and it's about bullying as well. It's not just about sexual misbehaviour. So there's a lot to come out still, I imagine.
For those who call this a witch hunt, there are others who say this is about people finally feeling able to speak uncomfortable truths to power.
Well, earlier I spoke to Conservative MP Nadine Dorries, and I began by asking her for her reaction to our earlier story.
Obviously, I'm absolutely shocked and appalled. I think it's one of the worst cases that we've heard so far. It equates to something which is almost unpalatable and something that's very difficult to put into words. If this particular complaint that you've told me about this evening, if this is investigated and found to be true, and knowing the female MP that you've told me who's this person works for, I believe it would be, because I don't think she would let this be out there if it wasn't. And I think the whip has to be removed. It's one of the most serious cases. You know, these women who are coming forward with these complaints now, they are brave and they are pioneers for the future, for changing the workplace, not only in the House of Commons, but across the UK. Because this problem, although it's happening in Westminster now, I know we've all heard, we've all had the big cases recently, the Spacey case, the other case, the BBC. These issues are happening in workplaces across the UK. And this issue, this exposure, these brave women in Westminster, they're changing workplaces, I think, of the future for the next generation.
Is Westminster worse than any other workplace, than many other workplaces? Is there something about Westminster that contributes to this culture, these abuses of power and worse?
No, there's something about men. There's something about the way men who reach a certain position in their workplace regard and treat young women. And it's not just in Westminster, it's in the legal profession, it's in the media, it's in banking, it's everywhere. There's something about men of a certain age, I would say too. And the thing about men, what they really need to realise now is how to behave with women. It is inappropriate to say some of the things that are said. It's inappropriate to behave in the way that men behave. And the one thing I would say about Westminster is it is a centre of power. The men who are there have taken a long time to get there. They spend their lives being told by people how wonderful they are. That does not mean that when they get to Westminster, they can behave in any way they like. But can I just caveat that with, I know some excellent MPs, male MPs in Westminster.
A lot of people hearing you speak might just say, well, she's the classic man-hater. What do you say to that?
Oh, I'm not the classic man-hater at all. That would just be absolutely nonsense. And in fact, you know, one of the things I've said right from the beginning is that we must be really careful not to come across as overstrident, overzealous, man-haters. You know, somebody said yesterday that the women in Westminster were under siege. We are not under siege. Most of the women who work in Westminster are very strong, independent women. Bit like myself. It takes a lot to intimidate us. I am not a man-hater, but I am a mother of 3 young women aged from 25 to 30. And I want in their workplace for them to go into work and feel safe. And I think that we have to lead that in Westminster. We have to have a working environment that is beyond reproach. And we absolutely do not have that at the moment.
Nadine Dorries, thank you very much indeed.
Labour's leadership dismissed talk of a witch hunt and demanded a fair, objective and independent body to deal with allegations of harassment at Westminster. The Shadow Chancellor, John McDonnell, said there is a pressing need to act quickly to deal with the issue. Party leaders are scheduled to meet on Monday to work out a common approach to tackling the allegations. There were calls too for a calm, considered approach from both Labour and Tory MPs, as our political correspondent Emily Morgan reports.
1 week after rumours of sexual harassment began circling Westminster, and the scandal is far from abating. In fact, it appears to be gathering pace. Charlie Elphicke, a Conservative MP, is the latest to be accused. He's been suspended after what his party call a serious allegation and referred to the police. Mr Elphicke pulled out of an event he was due to speak at this morning, simply tweeting, "The party tipped off the press before telling me of my suspension. I am not aware of what the alleged claims are and deny any wrongdoing." The Conservative Party do appear to be acting decisively. Michael Fallon was forced to resign this week and a new complaints procedure is now in place. One veteran of the party, though, warns of a witch hunt.
If somebody's done something very wrong, then by all means throw the book at them. But don't throw the book at them until the case is proven. We should treat them as allegations.
But we are, aren't we?
No, we're not. We're treating them as fact. And there's a fundamental difference there. It's a witch hunt.
At a Labour Party event in Blackpool, the Shadow Chancellor, perhaps unwisely, tried to make light of recent events.
And the person who was beside me, they always put you on with a Tory, was Michael Fallon. He didn't touch my knee.
That despite news, 3 of his own MPs have also been accused of inappropriate behaviour, claims they all deny. Later, Mr McDonnell made clear fundamental changes at Westminster need to take place.
But it is worrying and it's distressing. It's distressing for all of us. It's distressing to hear some of these concerns and some of the reports of what's gone on. So we've got to act with them. We've got to be decisive and ruthless.
One colleague tried to reassure the younger generation that Westminster is a safe place to work.
It's not acceptable and that they don't need to put up with any of it. You know, we've got to say no to this and they will find friends and allies, you know, people like me who will not put up with this. You know, some of the things that I've heard in the last week have been so disgusting and I am ashamed that this could happen in the Labour Party.
Wherever this scandal goes next, one thing's for sure, all parties are now working together to ensure everyone in Parliament feels able to stand up to abuse of power.
Everyone, as you say rightly there at the end, it's not a party political issue, but who stands to lose most?
Well, look, we simply don't know. One of the reasons we don't know is because we don't know what else is going to come out in the days and weeks to come. And another reason we don't know, and this is an important point, is that nothing's been proven yet. These are allegations that have been made against people, many of them MPs, and at the moment, at this point, they are simply being investigated. So, of course, all the parties are asking, how long is this going to run? What other things are going to come out? Are there going to be police investigations? Are indeed there going to be charges? Will there be by-elections even? The expenses scandal, of course, sparked many by-elections, and Theresa May has the most to lose if any of her MPs are going to have to resign. There is a very strange atmosphere in Westminster at the moment, and I think the next thing will be the Sunday newspapers tomorrow. What sort of allegations of wrongdoing will come out in those?
Indeed. Emily, thank you.